Good evening, y'all. It's really an honor to be over here in Van Zandt County with you again. I want to tell you, I don't want to just win Van Zandt County now. There's 4 people in this race, and I want y'all to remember the one guy that showed up to ask for your vote. So I don't want to just win it. I want every single vote in Van Zandt County coming in the range column on the night of March 6th. Please, y'all remember that. But seriously, it's really a shame my opponents didn't show up. This is a great turnout, a great venue. It's probably the biggest one I've seen in the whole campaign, to be honest with you. And that's a shame. Now, George, I'm not surprised he's not here because he hadn't showed up for any of them. But the other 2 guys missed it. We could have had a good give and take here. But I'll try to tell you real quick the gist of it. As far as my background, I'm 2 counties away. I grew up in Dallas County and Irving. My family's been in Dallas County since 1890. I moved over to Garland in 74 and then taught school a few years, and then I got on the Mesquite Fire Department and was on there for 31 years, driving the engine, running the pump, and also translated Spanish for the police and the fire department over there. Well, about a dozen years ago, a friend and I in high school, he's a professional writer up in D.C., we decided to co-author a book on the Alamo and got a contract on it, so that's what got me really deep into the Alamo research. And I've probably been down there 40 times in the last 10 years doing everything from archaeological digs to you name it. But that all got put on hold on the back burner this past April when y'all may have, well, you probably didn't hear because the news media didn't cover it. The Reimagine the Alamo Master Plan came out, was unveiled. They call it the big reveal here, and they had 3 public hearings in San Antonio. And of course, when everybody heard the details of it, they were aghast because what it boiled down to was they wanted to take the focus off of the Battle of the Alamo. George P. Bush said we've got to do that in order to promote unity and not division in our society. His master planner, George Scarmaeus, got up and said, they asked him, going to rebuild part of the 36 stuff? No, we can't do that because we can't single out one moment in time. So that was the gist of it. Nobody outside San Antonio knew anything about it. I put up the Save the Alamo formed the committee. We put up the website, the social media, started trying to get around the state. Now there might be 20% of the voters know it. It's still a very dangerous situation for the Alamo. And that's where we need you all's help. Now, Mr. Bush has tried to change tunes, but we know his real mindset. You know, just 2 weeks ago, he came out now for abolishing Confederate Heroes Day in the state of Texas. This man is a politically correct radical. Make no bones about it. I want every one of y'all to remember that when you go vote. We cannot leave him, we cannot leave the Alamo in his hands and trust him with the Alamo's future. So what I want to ask you all to do is to please notify everybody you know in the state of Texas, tell them about this situation, ask them to turn around and notify everybody they know, because we've only got 1 week left. 1 week tomorrow, early vote starts. So I need y'all to please help together. If you do, we can beat him, we will beat him, and together we will save the Alamo. Thank y'all so much, and please spread the word.
Next will be our Court of Criminal Appeals, Place 8. And we have 1 candidate here, Mr. Dib Waldrop, who will have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Judge Dib Waldrop. I am from New Braunfels, Texas. I'm a district judge there. And I want to thank everybody for putting this on. Y'all have done such a great job. As Rick just said, this is one of the biggest crowds the statewide candidates have seen anywhere. Y'all have done such a good job. I think we ought to move the capital. Ought to move the capital to Van Zandt County so it can be the Washington, D.C., Washington in the District of Canton. But beyond that, the Court of Criminal Appeals is the highest court in the land, in Texas. For all criminal cases, the last word. And you need to have a judge that's up there that has got some experience and done that. I am board certified in criminal law by both the State Bar and the National Board of Trial Advocacy. The only way you get those certifications is to try cases. I personally have tried over 100 felony cases in front of a jury. I've got 2 opponents that combined have tried 0. How can they presume to go up to the highest court in the land with the last word in criminal cases and tell the whole world how to do something they personally have never done? I am endorsed by the Texas Patriots PAC, Texas Patriots Conservative, and up here close to y'all by Sue Evanwell. And I've been, like I said, with my credentials, I've been a police officer. I've been elected district attorney in New Braunfels for 10 years, currently serving as a district judge. When I left law school, I also worked for the courts of appeals, drafting 400 to 500 opinions for the appellate judges in those courts, so I know exactly what we're doing. I'm also the only candidate that has ushered through the final midnight type appeals on a death penalty case. And although it was a very sobering moment, nobody likes to be put in that position, but I ultimately asked the governor for a death warrant in a case with all those appeals having been exhausted. I do thank you for your time. I do thank you for your vote. My name is Dib Waldrop, and I'm running for the Court of Criminal Appeals, Place 8. With all those experiences that I've discussed with you, I'm here as a cop, as an elected DA, an elected judge. I'm the only one that's going to have the personal experience to know how to catch them, clean them, and cook them. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Hall, you'll be at number 1, and Ms. Burkett at number 2. And if our state rep candidates would come sit at the table behind us, Mr. Dan Flynn and Mr. Brian Slayton, to be ready for the next race. Thank you all. You'll begin with opening statements, 2 minutes. And Mr. Hall, you'll begin first.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Bob Hall, and I'm honored and I am blessed to have had the opportunity to serve as your Texas Senator for the last 4 years. A little bit of my background, I'm a graduate of the Citadel with a degree in electrical engineering. Graduated at the top of my class as an Air Force cadet, was given a regular commission in the Air Force, military veteran, where I served for almost 6 years on the Minuteman Missile Program in California. I'm also a small business owner. My wife Kay and I, who is here with me tonight, as she usually is, owned and operated our own business, so we know what it is to be in the business world. And you know, 4 years ago, you were faced with a choice similar to what you have now. You had an incumbent with a very liberal voting record, faced by a challenger from the Tea Party that no one knew anything about. Well, I promised you that who I was. That I was, first of all, serve my Lord Jesus Christ. I second was a constitutional conservative, and that I was going to go to Austin and do what I said I was going to do. And you took a chance, and that's exactly what I did. I went there, I did what I said I was going to do. I told you I would vote for your conservative values, because voting is what we do down there that is most important. It's not the number of bills that are passed. And if you measure a candidate or anybody by the number of bills they pass, you're in the wrong room tonight. You belong down the street with the liberal Democrats. That's how they measure their success, by adding burden to you with the bills that they pass. And it wasn't what I said, it's what others have said about it. I was voted or named by several organizations after the first year of serving you as the most conservative senator in Texas, and I continue to do that. I promised you that I would go to God every day on my knees and ask for His wisdom, His courage, and His strength to do your will, to His will in serving you. And that's exactly what I did. And if you send me back down there, I will continue serving you as a conservative.
Can y'all hear me? Okay, great. Good evening. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Cindy Burkett, and I thought I would just start out telling you a little bit about myself and how I got involved in politics. My husband and I have lived in this district for over 30 years. We've raised our 3 kids here. We've been active in the community through civic volunteering in our church. I'm a realtor working in commercial and residential real estate, so I've been a small businesswoman. And prior to that, I had a business where we owned some Subway franchises, and found that working as a small businesswoman was good practice for working in Austin. Little background, my husband and I were high school sweethearts. We got married when I was 17, and yes, we're still married and still happy together, but needless to say, getting married that young, I didn't go to college right out of high school. I share that because many times in my working career, I have been told I couldn't be considered for promotion because I didn't have a degree. Now, I could have simply bemoaned the fact of how unfair it was that I didn't have a piece of paper and they wouldn't promote me and I could do the job, but being a Texas woman, you put a stumbling block in front of me, I'm going to take that and I'm going to make a building block out of it. So I started going to school at night. During that time, one of my professors suggested that I apply for an internship with one of my elected state officials. And that led to an internship with Senator Dool, and eventually after graduation, a position on his staff. While working on my degree, I also did a summer internship in Washington, D.C., working on the Hill with the National Association of State Mental Health Program Directors. And 8 years later, I'm glad to say I graduated summa cum laude with a major in political science and a minor in business. After the House district that I'm now representing went to the Democrats during the Obama swing, I had several friends approach me about running for the Texas House of Representatives. After a three-way primary and a very vigorous November election, I'm happy to report that we took that House seat back and have kept it for 4 terms. I feel that I've been very effective serving my House district in Austin, and I feel that I can do the same on the Senate side. I look forward to our discussion tonight and appreciate everyone that took time out to come out and listen to us.
Thank you all. The first question will come from Brad.
This question is for both candidates, starting with Mr. Hall. What is your position and how have you voted with regards to free market enterprise and reducing crony capitalism, which is where friends of government officials and business leaders are given unfair advantages in the form of jobs, loans, and so on?
I'm absolutely opposed to the crony capitalism that we currently have in the process in Austin. I have voted against it every opportunity that I've had. The free enterprise fund, where we pick winners and losers in the private sector, is absolutely wrong. The government has no business being in that. Programs like the Major Events Fund, where we fund cities to have events, pay them back, that's not the role of government. And the motion picture fund, we actually pay companies from Hollywood to come to Texas and make movies like Machete and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and even commercials for Walmart. I have voted against every time they have been brought up, every proposal, bill that was offered that would expand to any one of those. I have been adamantly opposed to it and have filed bills to get rid of all of those crony capitalism programs.
Okay, thank you for that question. I just wanted to point out something that Senator Hall referred to, the Texas Movie Film Image and Industry Incentive Program. For every dollar that the state of Texas spends on these grants, 5.79 are spent in the local economy. And this has been the case from the very beginning. So we're seeing money come back into our state and our districts and our local communities. But I think that when we look at how our governments have got the highest rate for our businesses, until just recently when we had the new tax program passed up in DC, which brought it down from 35% to 20%. So if we can offer our businesses a tax break to bring their jobs into this state and make sure that you have good paying jobs, as long as we have a sufficient oversight over that and a clawback program of some sort to make sure that it's delivering what they say it's going to deliver, I think we need to use that as a tool.
Okay, rebuttals, 30 seconds each. Just raise your hand and let me know that you want to. So I assume, Mr. Hall, you don't have to raise it real high, just so I got the message.
Got the word, okay. Just remember this, when a business is given a tax abatement and it comes here and it brings the people with it, it needs services just like you and your business that was already here. And so somebody has to pay for that. And so what happens is you end up paying for that business just to get it into the community. And we have never had anybody to show that the net effect to our state was good by picking winners and losers and giving an abatement to someone. And we haven't found that any of the enterprise programs, including the movie industry fund, has ever actually netted the state any money. And even if it did, it's not the business of government to be in the free market system.
Mr. Burkett. In case some of y'all were not here, we asked that during the question and answer period, you not do applause so we can keep moving along. You're welcome to do it in opening statements and closing statements, just not during the questioning. Thank you very much. Ms. Burkett.
Thank you. Just a comment that we have got to make sure that Texas is as competitive as the states around us, and they do have programs such as this. Anybody here work at AutoZone in Terrell or know somebody who does? That's one that was paid for to bring into the state with the program that Mr. Hall's discussing.
Okay, next question, Ken.
This is for both of you, starting with Ms. Burkett. What is your position and how have you voted on bills or amendments related to the creation of new toll roads and or the abolishing of existing toll roads?
When we look at the people that are moving into the state of Texas, we have 1,200 people a day moving into the state of Texas, bringing their vehicles with them. Now, if you want to look at that in a very conservative fashion of 4 people per vehicle, that's 300 vehicles a day moving into our state. We have not kept up with that. I think that we need to look at strategically how we use any kind of managed lanes. I think that what we need to, do anybody in here remember when the I-30 from Fort Worth to Dallas was a toll road? If you do, raise your hand. What happened after we got it paid off? We took the toll off of it. So as we're looking at ways to juggle what we're trying to do to keep our people moving to work and to school and to pay for the roads, I think that that's something we want to look at strategically, whether we use it or not. We have been told to death. I don't argue with that. But I do know that we've got to be able to get our roads paid for, and that's one of the tools that I think that we need to look at strategically.
Mr. Hall.
From the day I got to Austin, or actually before I got there, I have been opposed to toll roads. We don't need them. We can build the roads without them. We've shown economically, financially, how it can be done. And to answer the question, I have voted against every expansion of toll roads, whereas my opponent has consistently voted for more toll roads and even voted against the bill where we would have taken the toll roads off of the road after it was paid for. We do not need that. It discriminates against the poor. A worker that has to take a toll road to and from work every day over the life of their work will cost that family in excess of $135,000. We're taking away a college education or a home from that family. As far as managed lanes goes, they're really called Lexus lanes because it's something for the rich and it discriminates against the poor. And I'll continue to fight till we have non-toll roads for everybody.
Responses?
Yes, thank you. Recently, we had an issue with 635 where Mr. Hall decided that we did need those managed lanes, and now that project is on hold. And we're looking at what the tax audit has told us, we're going to have to reapportion money. So basically what's going to happen is we're going to reapportion out of 80 in Kaufman and out of 30 in Rockwall to get 635 built. So often I've heard Mr. Hall say that there's only so much money, and that is correct. So we have to look strategically how we use it to see how we can get the biggest use of those dollars to make sure that you guys can get to work and you can get home.
Mr. Hall?
By what I've done in bringing the attention to the toll road has gotten the attention of our governor and lieutenant governor, and they agreed with me. They agreed with delaying the plan which was being put forward, and that was to have managed lanes on it. They're reconsidering how they're going to do it without the tolls. I talked with TxDOT this past week. It is not going to have an impact on Highway 80 or in 30 going into Rockwall. The money is there to do it. They were only short $300 million, and they found it when they canceled the project in Dallas called the Trinity River Bridge. There's enough money to do it there. We do not need to have toll roads.
Okay, our next question. This goes to both candidates. Mr. Hall first. Both of you claim to be pro-life and have been endorsed by various pro-life groups within the state. What is your definition of 100% pro-life? How does your voting record on bills and amendments reflect your pro-life definition? And have you ever voted against a bill or amendment that was intended to prevent any type of abortion?
I'm absolutely 100% pro-life. Life begins at conception for each of us when we are crafted in our mother's wombs by God's hands in His image. In His image means He made us exactly the way he wanted us to be, with all of our faults and with all of our good points. He gave each of us a lifespan. Some of us 100 years, some 50, some maybe a few days or a few minutes. But it's his doing. Man has no business interfering in that. I believe 100% in life from conception till natural go home by God.
Ms. Burkett.
Thank you. I was a joint author in 2013 for HB2 with Jody Laubenberg, and with that bill we stopped all abortion after 20 weeks. We closed over 30 abortion clinics with that bill. Unfortunately, we had a lot of that struck down by the judges, the liberal judges that we have. This last session, I was the main author in SB 8, which got rid of partial birth abortion, dismembered abortion. It got rid of the baby body parts being sold as it's currently done by Planned Parenthood. I think everybody was appalled by that. We did have an amendment on that bill, the Schaefer Amendment that was referred to earlier, and basically what that did was a 20-week ban. There are only 2 exceptions to abortion after 20 weeks. One is in the case of the life of the mother. One is in the case of extreme fetal abnormalities where the baby will not survive outside of the womb, even with medical care. That amendment would have removed that exception. I feel like that was a serious enough subject matter that we needed to take it through the committee process and get input from all, and so I did vote to table that amendment.
Yes, sir.
I think it's a serious enough matter that we need to talk to anybody about it. Taking a life is taking a life. God determined what that baby was supposed to be, and that baby probably only had maybe a few days. But that was God's decision, not man's, to take it up. We had the opportunity to end late-term abortion, a back door for Planned Parenthood that can be used, because if you can find a doctor that's willing to do a late-term abortion, they'll have no problem lying about what the condition of the baby is so that they can abort them because there is no evidence left. It's a loophole. We could have closed this last session. One of the congressional candidates missed it. Not only did the candidate miss that was not here, but my opponent also voted against it.
Any other?
Yes, I would
Go
like
ahead.
to make one comment. I am a very pro-life candidate. I have passed more pro-life legislation than Mr. Hall has voted on. I'm very disappointed in the actual dishonesty that's been discussed in the district by Mr. Hall and his supporters, that this particular amendment would not keep children with Down syndromes or other disabilities that can very much live outside of the womb to have them covered. I think that's dishonest. It's a shame, and I hate to see these very families that are in these horrible situations being used as a political football.
Again, that was God's handiwork. And when you talk to a woman who has gone ahead and had the abortion and then found out that the doctor was wrong, it might be a surprise to some people, but doctors do make a mistake. And for a doctor to misdiagnose and then have the abortion and then learn out that the baby was perfectly normal, or talk to the mother whose baby only lived for a few hours or a few minutes and feel the completeness that she had, that at least she held her child for what life God had given them. We could have stopped it. We need to stop it, and we need to stop it next session, and I will vote for it next session.
Our next question will be from Brad. Y'all please stop, okay? Please do not applaud during the questions. We got to move on. Brad.
This is for both candidates. Mrs. Burkett, what is your position on property tax reform, and how did you vote on related bills and amendments in the 85th and special session?
Thank you, Brad. I think the property tax reform is probably the biggest subject matter you guys are interested in. And I voted for, we had the bill come over from the Senate, and it came on the floor at a 6% cap, voted for that. We had an amendment for a 4% cap, voted for that. My main concern, though, was that until we take care of our school funding, you guys are not going to see any property tax relief. And I think when you hear the word property tax reform, that's what you're wanting to know, is how it's going to hit your pocketbook. The bills that we had, when you take out the portion of our property taxes when it comes to your school funding, you are looking at 60% of your bill that's not even being considered. So I think that the first thing we're going to have to do next time around when we're looking at property tax reform is, number one, get rid of all unfunded mandates. Number two, we're going to have to look at our our school funding to make sure that you guys get the reform, which you are thinking is relief, in your when we pass that bill.
Absolutely, we need property tax reform. We passed that bill for putting a trigger at 4%. It wasn't a cap. It just meant that you, the people, got to say if you wanted your property tax raised for the services being offered or you didn't. It passed out of the Senate and died in the House. The House proposed a 6%, which would provide no relief at all for you. The governor has now stepped into this fray with even more aggressive, talking about putting a trigger at 2.5% and tying it to limiting unfunded mandates. I think he's on the right track. I think we also need to look at the issue of the appraisal process and bring some uniformity to it across the state, and look at having our property appraisers actually be elected to office instead of appointed. And I think we'll find that that will lead us to some real reform protecting our property tax increases.
Rebuttals?
No.
Okay. Next question, Ken.
This is for both of you. Mr. Hall first. What is your position on limiting government spending? And how have you voted on any amendments or bills that would have provided such limitations?
I think that Texas does not have a revenue problem. Texas has a spending problem. We spend far too much money on things that people do not need, do not want, and the government has absolutely no business spending on it. And the only way we're going to get it under control is by putting spending caps in it. We're a mature state. We've got mature cities, mature counties. We know what it takes to govern, and that's what we need to limit it to. The only reason we need to have any growth in government is if the population grows or if we have inflation. So we need to limit spending to a combination of population growth and inflation at all levels of government. And I will be supporting a bill for that next session for sure.
Ms. Burkett?
Thank you. When I came in 2011, do y'all remember the recession that we were in at that point? Well, I came in with a $27 billion shortfall, and we were trying to figure out how we were going to possibly get through this without raising taxes. States across the country were doing exactly that. We made a lot of cuts. We did some delayed payments, but we managed to get through that without using the rainy day fund or raising taxes. The population plus inflation, good idea. And as a general rule, every single session that I've been in, that's been the budget that we have passed at that with that limit. And I did have a bill in 2015 that would have put it exactly at that.
Any rebuttals? Thank you.
Okay, our next question will go to Ms. Burkett. In one study of hundreds of record votes, your conservative ranking among House Republicans was described as, quote, one of two representatives whose ideological positions within the GOP caucus shifted the most in 2015, a score that was significantly less conservative than more than half of her fellow Republicans, close quote. And that was from 53rd out of 94 Republicans in 2013 to 79th out of 97 Republicans in 2015. Your 2017 ranking was also below 2013 at 69th out of 95. Could you explain how you fought for conservatives with those results and what would be different in the Senate?
Be glad to. I think when we look at conservative principles, Senator Hall and I agree on many of them. Personal responsibility, sanctity and dignity of human life, reasonable regulation and tax burden, limited government, local control, Second Amendment rights. But I think what we don't necessarily see is how we put that into action. Now, I want to give you a couple of examples of the scores that we had on these report cards this last time around. HB 10 is a bill that allowed the Texas Department of Insurance to enforce the existing law regarding mental health insurance. I voted for that. That was scored against me. The Senate didn't get scored on that. The governor signed that bill. HB 100, common sense regulations of Uber Lyft drivers, like requiring that these drivers are not intoxicated on the job, have a valid driver's license, insurance, not be convicted sex offenders. I voted for that. I got scored against for voting for that. The Senate didn't get scored for that. The governor signed it. So I'm running out of time. We have a lot of different bills that are just like that. I would encourage you to look at the bills that are scored.
Mr. Hall, any response? Rebuttal? Comment?
With all of the scorecards that are out there, score all of the members of the House on the same set of bills because their bills are generally different than what are in the Senate. All of the Senate members get scored on the same set, on the set of bills that go through the Senate. The Rice University study that looks at all the bills that were passed, not just a select few, but all the bills that were contentious in the Senate and in the House, and they use that to rank the House members and the Senate members from most conservative to least or most liberal. They do one for the House and they do one for the Senate. That's where our score was rated based on all the bills taken.
Any other comments?
Do you want me to answer the question?
Well, you can rebut.
I want the minute answer. Or was that his? I'm sorry.
30 seconds.
Yes, I will.
30
I think it
seconds.
was, yes, I'm sorry. Rice University is a scatter chart, as Mr. Hall just suggested. They take a vote, and if there's 4 people that voted against it and they're Republicans, then the conservative vote is Republican. Same on the other side. Let me give you an example. Senator Hall was the only state senator to vote against measures aimed at reducing sexual assaults on college campuses. That would have been the conservative vote because of that. Senator Hall was also the only state senator who opposed a bill that allowed judges to extend protective orders against potentially abusive individuals when there's a finding of lethal violence. That would have been the conservative vote on that. I don't agree with that. I don't think those are conservative votes.
Okay. Yep, go ahead.
My opponent is wrong on that because it takes at least 2 votes in the Senate for it to be scored. It takes 5 votes contentious in the House, so those bills were not scored at all.
No comment. I think that the bills themselves speak for themselves.
All right, next question from Brad.
This is for both of you. And Mr. Hall, you'll go first. The Republican Party platform states, "We believe that all children should have access to quality education. We support the right to choose public, private, charter, or home education. We support the distribution of educational funds in a manner that they follow the student to any school, whether public, private, charter, or homeschool, through means of tax exemptions and/or credits." What is your position?
Well, the most important responsibilities we have as adults, not just legislators, but as adults, is the education of our children. They deserve to have the very best possible education. And for about the last 50 years, we have steadily increased funding in schools where we're about 300% of what we were before, and I have not improved achievement levels. Our children deserve to have their achievement levels raised. And I think the idea put forth in the platform is one where we focus on the most important person in the school system, and that is the student. And we start focusing on the very most important employee in the school system, and that's the teacher. For too long, our teachers have languished at the bottom of the professional ladder in pay, where administrators are being paid 40 to 50% more on the same campus and 100% more at the superintendent level. We need to move from an institution-centric system back to a student-teacher-centric system.
Could you repeat the question? I'm not sure he answered it, and I want to make sure I'm answering the question.
I'd love to. The Republican Party platform states, "We believe that all children should have access to quality education. We support the right to choose public, private, charter, or home education. We support the distribution of educational funds in a manner that they follow the student to any school, whether public, private, charter, or homeschool, through means of tax exemptions and/or credits." What is your position?
Okay, so the question is about vouchers. Okay, one of my biggest concerns with ESAs or vouchers or any other label you want to put on them is the use of public tax dollars going to a system that isn't held to the same standard or accountability as our public schools. You know, we've got the A through F accountability standard that we make our public schools exist under. I think anybody having those dollars should have that same issues. With vouchers, what are you going to do? You're going to set up a whole new layer of bureaucracy to manage where the tax dollars are going? Do you make sure they're spending, how are you going to make sure they're spent for their intended purpose? We have an elected board that's going to oversee those tax dollars. That doesn't happen with the private schools. They're answerable to the actual boards themselves. And then, what kind of schools are they going to go to? I'm okay with it going to a Christian school, but are you okay with it going to a Muslim school? And those are choices that those parents would be making with your tax dollars, and I have a big hesitation with that.
Yes, sir.
Be real clear to answer your question. I agree with the platform completely in giving our students an opportunity to be able to improve the achievement level. As where school choice has been tried, it has been successful. It increases teachers' pay. The competition is good for education. It increases graduation rates. It reduces dropout rates. It improves college graduation. And most importantly, it actually reduces the incarceration rates of young people. We tried it down in Edgewood for 8 years and it worked, and those were the results we found down there. Our students deserve it.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. And I've heard Mr. Hall mention that before, so why isn't it still being used would be my first question. But my second question is, in Garland ISD, we've got an open district. You can go anywhere in the district you want to go. And I think that's one way to make sure that our kids have got some choice and not be stuck in a zip code. And additionally, I think that we can go across those lines, say Garland and Mesquite, they butt up to each other. If you're a student that lives in Garland, you'd like to go over to Mesquite and take advantage of a culinary program they may have over there, let's open it up. That's sharing resources, giving kids the choice, and they're getting a great education on top of it.
Go ahead.
That concept, limited as it is, might work in the big city. It doesn't work out here in there. It has worked, and it is continuing to work in states that have been very successful with it. There's several of them, and to answer your question, why did in Edgewood, it was funded by private business. It went into a poor school district, 97% Hispanic and black, and it worked there. The businessmen ran out of money, and the government wouldn't step in to continue it, so it went back to the way it was before.
And that's part of the San Antonio system, I think, and that San Antonio area is the Edgewood School District.
That is correct. It was the Edgewood and San Antonio.
Just not to confuse it with Edgewood up the street here. Okay, now we'll move to our closing statements by each of our candidates. Thank you all for answering our questions and for the lively debate. You'll have 1 minute. Ms. Burkett, you'll have the first opportunity.
Thank you. So people ask me why I'm running for Senate District 2. It was really a grassroots recruitment from within the senatorial district. I had numerous people over the last year ask me to consider it. They were looking for someone that would listen to their constituents, be responsive, and someone that is effective. I believe these are all characteristics that I have demonstrated. I make a concentrated effort to meet and discuss issues with my constituents, even those with philosophical differences. As a matter of fact, a majority of the bills that I filed this past session came from meetings with concerned citizens, superintendents, and local leaders. My effectiveness is proven in the fact that I've passed 30 of the bills that I authored for the past 4 sessions. If you factor in Senate companions of my authored bills, other Senate bills that I sponsored on the House side, and bills that passed as amendments, I've managed to work 59 bills through the system. In contrast, our current senator has passed 1 out of 136 bills filed in the last 2 sessions. You know, conservative values without results is nothing more than empty rhetoric. I believe I can more effectively represent this district on the other side of the Capitol. Thank you.
Mr. Hall.
What we do in Austin is not measured by what we say about ourselves. Campaign rhetoric is cheap. Any of us can get up and talk about being a conservative, but it's actually how we vote. And that's the most important thing that we do down there. We take thousands of votes each session, and that's what determines the bills that get passed down there, and they get passed with teamwork doing it. And how I voted down there has been reflected by the fact that I've got the endorsement of virtually every conservative organization in Texas, and each scores theirs differently. I have the endorsement of our Lieutenant Governor and our Attorney General in Paxton. I'm endorsed by Texas Right to Life, Texas Values, Texas Advancing Choice, Texas Farm Bureau, the NFIB, Toll Free Texas. I am endorsed by the NRA, TSRA, Grassroots America, Young Conservatives of Texas, Texas for Fiscal Responsibility, Family Research Council, and many others, including Texas Eagle Forum, Freedom Caucus, and the Texas Conservative Digest. They say that I am the conservative for this district. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate your participation. Yeah.